Hey everyone, thank you very much for watching my new video. This is part one in a series of 5 videos about headlight restoration. I'm going to put them all out at once, so make sure to check out the channel and see all the other videos if you want to see different types, but not only different types, we're going to do them at different stages. Today in part one, we're going to be looking at the infamous Insect Repellant. As it's created a lot of hit and miss controversy with some people saying you should, some you shouldn't. I personally don't think you should, but we're going to do it because you got to see the effects, and we're going to see actually the results of it, and I'll also go through some of the things as well. Before we get into it though, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know you guys like what I'm doing. Other than that, let's get started, shall we? So suppose, as first part of the video, before we can get to the work, I should just explain quickly why this is somewhat controversial and for certain people. And that's because of the material that's used in here. So what you need, if this is going to work, can't use any regular insect repellent. Has to be one that contains DEET. Different repellents have different levels of DEET. In this case here, this one's 25% DEET. What DEET is, though, is it reacts chemically with plastics. So everything from your headlights, especially if you have glass headlights, that's one thing. But most cars these days are plastic headlights. So headlights, even things like watches, like if you have a plastic band or anything like that on your watch, toys, anything like that, it can react with it and kind of melts it on the surface level. So, of course, this does create some issues with having to use this on your headlights, because essentially you're kind of messing up with the composite of the plastic itself in order to actually clean it. We're going to try a few different things though. So what I'm going to do is divide the headlight into 3 different areas. So I'm actually going to mask it off as best as possible. You can see this is the headlight I'll be using here. For each of the tests in my 5-part series, I'm going to try and use a different headlight of some sort, whether it be on a car or in this case here, one I happen to have sitting around. And we have to clean it off obviously first. And then I'm going to mask it off, and I'm going to try 3 different sections with the bug spray. The 3 tasks we'll be looking at is applying the bug spray on and then cleaning it off very quickly. Another one will be applying the bug spray on, leaving it on for a few minutes, and then cleaning it off. No other treatments, no pre-treatments, no sanding, anything like that prior to. And then we're going to do another one where we're going to apply the bug spray on for a few minutes, let it sit, clean it off, and then apply some wax afterwards to see if that makes any difference as well. And then we'll compare the 3 and see how it kind of turns out, if there's any difference. I've never done a test like this before, so I'm not entirely sure what results, if any, we'll get. Maybe it makes a difference, maybe not. You can see this headlight here, it's got a lot of fading, it's old. You can see it's also been sitting a while, so obviously, like I said, clean it up. But even without the cleaning, it's all faded and everything like that. So we're going to get started now. So whether you're doing this on car or off, you want to make sure your headlight's clean as possible. Simply because even if you apply even something as insect repellent or anything on the surface, forgetting the dirt or any hazing and stuff that's on there, if you have any dirt and you apply a cloth, you could scratch up the surface even more. So you want to clean it as best as possible. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to use a regular yellow sponge and some car wash. A nice soapy lather. We're going to clean up as best as possible, get as much of the grime off as possible. There's certain things, obviously, in case you're wondering, I wouldn't have done. Like, for example, I would have rinsed this off even before applying soap if this was on car. But since I have no intention of using this headlight anymore, that's why I'm taking it this way. Of course, then we're going to rinse it off. And then we'll dry it off with a soft drying cloth, lint-free, anything like that you want to use that's made for the application of drying your car. Same thing here. Again, if this is on a car, even more so. You can already see that it's looking better just from what it looked before, just covered from the grime and the dirt and everything as well. But once it fully settles and dry, which I'll give it a couple minutes to do, you'll still see there's a lot of hazing and damage that's all like over here. You can actually physically feel it where the clear coat has released from the car and it's no longer there. So we're going to give it a couple minutes and then we'll get right back to it. Okay, so you can see now the headlight is completely dry. I don't want to touch it too much to put any contaminant on there. Simply because though, you don't want to mess with anything in regards to our testing. But you can take a look now, you can see it's a lot cleaner. However, the hazing and stuff, you can still see there's a lot of it there with the clear coat that came off. So we're going to attempt to do this test now. Before we get started though, any of these tests you do, just make sure that a couple things. Making sure you're doing this in a cool place. You don't want to be having the car exposed to heat or anything. The headlight has to be cold as well. Not cold, I should check cool. It can't be cold. You don't want it too cold, you don't want it too hot. It's just got to be a good low temperature, just so you have a good bonding surface for everything. Now, we're going to tape everything off. I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to apply some regular masking tape, which you wouldn't normally do, obviously, and at least on the headlights, because I'll be masking it off so we can divide it up and see the different testing areas. However, if you're doing this on car, unfortunately, a lot of the older cars were a lot easier because you could take the headlights off there easy. Some of them were just like 2 bolts or something like that, or some of them even had on the GMs, they had like just 2 little things you pulled up and take out. But a lot of new cars with their more complicated designs, they look really nice, but you can't take the headlights out. Some of the headlights are actually behind the bumper. There's clips that go behind the bumper and you can't just take them out. So if you're doing this on car, no matter what route you're taking out of the 5 tests we'll be doing, make sure you mask off the car if this is on car. No matter what, you want to put some tape around. If you can, lay some bags or anything like that. Protect your bumpers, protect your hood, fenders, anything like that around your car itself. But we're going to apply the tape now. So I'm just going to open that up here. I'm just going to be dividing it up fairly evenly. So we're going to put one piece of tape there. That'll be our one division. And then I'll do another one, I suppose, right about here. There. So now we have our 3 points so we can do our testing. And just a reminder that, especially if this is on car, but even in this demonstration here, you don't want to be spraying on directly onto the headlight for a couple reasons. Number one, even if you've masked off, if it's on the car and you've masked it off, you don't want spray to get into anywhere. Some of these cars, for example, they have rubber seals around here. You don't want to get onto any of that, or the plastic and damage the plastic underneath. You also don't want to overspray in case you're doing this and it's a windy day, you get a gust of wind and it blows it up onto the car. You don't want any problems there too. So you're going to use a clean microfiber cloth or any type of good lint-free cloth, and we're going to spray it right on there. So because for the interest of this test, it doesn't really matter too much, I'm going to spray and work on each one individually. Of course, as I'm applying, I'm avoiding going over the tape in any way. And then we're going to do the second one as well. Hey, this stuff smells not bad. Can't lie. Some of these stuff doesn't smell that great, but this one's not too bad. Not too bad. Obviously, as you can see, there's also an improvement. Even though this is a clean cloth, you can see contaminant is coming off there. I'm going to flip that over onto the other side. Just a little more on this one here. Now this third piece I'm doing here, the reason I did it last is because that's the piece we want to, for the test, we're removing immediately. We're going to use clean sponge and clean, no water with no soap. Rinse it out. We're just going to use that to clean off our Insect Repellant. And then we're going to let that air dry. The other two, on the other hand, we're going to leave that on for longer, approximately 7 or 8 minutes or so. And then we'll come back to it. I'll use, again, the sponge, and we'll clean them off with water, and then we'll move on. So it has been exactly 7 minutes later. Trust me, I use the timer. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to clean that up. We're going to do one at a time. So we're going to start off with the first one we did, which is here. I'm going to clean, again, soft, wet sponge, no debris or anything on it. This one's brand new, actually. And we're also not using any chemicals, soap, anything like that. Do the same over here. There. So now that's all done, we have cleaned off as much of the insect repellent as we can. I'll let it air dry a little bit. And then on the last part over here, I'm also going to apply a little bit of wax as well, just to kind of protect it a little bit more and see what kind of effect that has with the application of the insect repellent. Okay, so you can see now that it's all been dried off. It's obviously a noticeable difference. You can actually even see the difference between the 3 spots without even applying the wax. These two obviously look a lot cleaner than it does there. Sure, there's the hazing that's still here, but there's hazing down at the bottom here too. All that's gone. So we're going to apply some wax now. I'm going with, just so in case you're wondering, it's going to be some McGuire's Gold Class. And no, they're not giving me credit for saying that, but that is what I'm using. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply. Okay, so obviously I'm going to let that dry to a haze before I remove it off. So I think other than that, I'll remove it off and then we'll actually take off the tape and do a side-by-side comparison. There's already some noticeable difference. It is quite nice. As I read online though, and as I hear from people, this doesn't last long. I suppose the unfortunate part is because it's not on my car, I won't be able to weather test it and see how it lasts over long term. But it is interesting to see what the results we get now. So I'm going to give that a couple minutes. We're going to let that haze over approximately 5 minutes. Once it's done hazing, I'll come and buff it out, and then we'll take off the tape and compare side by side. Okay, so I gave it some time to haze over. We're now just going to take a clean microfiber cloth and we're going to buff that out. Okay, so now that's all done. You can see what we're working with here. So I'm just going to pause. We're going to take off the tape. I'm going to move to kind of a brighter area, and then we're going to do some comparison. So there's the completed project. And in case you can't tell, this is the tape off. And the good thing with the tape is it actually gives you a vantage point of what you looked at before and after. So this is the first side we've done here. Having cleaned it off and everything, it is sticky to the touch, which is the Deet reacting with the plastic. And you can feel that there. That is a bit of a problem. You wouldn't want that, but it has made a bit of an improvement. You can still feel obviously the hazing. You would use, for example, sandpaper, and we will touch on that in one of the other parts. But this is just an application of the insect repellent to see what it does on its own with no other changes, or if we didn't make any cleanup, any sanding, any buffing, anything aside from here, of course. But you can feel the stickiness there for sure. Here, where it was applied for longer, surprisingly very little tackiness to it. Here has had a lot more, but here very little tacky. And the only difference between these is this was on only for 30 seconds a minute. This was on for 7 minutes. There is still a bit of a tacky feel to it though, but not as much. Also, if you look at the comparison between here and over here, you can barely see over here, where here is still very, very obvious. But this and this, at the beginning of the video, they looked very, very similar. So it has helped reduce the staining somewhat, the clear coat peeling and so on, but not as huge a difference. Here is the last part where you apply the wax. Now the wax has helped to take off all the sticky tacky feel that's gone. So it helped rectify some of that. But the reaction between all three are the same. You can see that between these two, even with the wax application here, what the wax helped was take care of any of the sticky tackiness to it, but it didn't really change the look. The look between the two overall is the same, but it is a marked improvement. So if you're going to take this route, you can, I do say leave it on for a bit longer, but this would only be if you can't use one of the other routes. You'll see the other videos. Please make sure you watch it and like. But you can see that it has made a difference even in itself doing this route. I hope this video has definitely helped you guys out in helping clean out your headlights. Again, make sure to check out the other parts, and I will see you in the next video.